I don't want to blabber on too long before I get to what I experienced, but I feel like it's important to give a few background details about myself. I mean, shit. Why believe a single word of someone you know nothing about, right? After I finished college, I moved to the state of Massachusetts. I was somehow lucky enough to land my dream job over there. It was a no-brainer really, even if it was quite a drive away from where I lived. I fell in love with the city and the job very, very quickly, and I have to say, I was really fucking happy. Still am happy, just to clarify. There wasn't anything spoopy-doopy that resulted in me quitting the next day and never talking about it again. Nothing about me seeing too much and being reassigned or let go with an NDA. But what I did see was real, at least as far as I know it was real. Real in the sense that I really saw and experienced it. Let me stop with the waffling and carry on. So, this was back in 2022, so not recent, but it has never left my mind. I was back in my hometown to meet up with some old college friends and the like, taking a trip to see family and other friends and just generally have a blast. I was driving down by myself. No cutie pie GF from me, unfortunately. It had been a long-ass time since I drove down this way, so I have to say, it took me a while after having gotten used to only ever driving the same surrounding area for many years. Because it was so unfamiliar, and because I got lost and sidetracked, I decided fuck it. I would take a more scenic route, and if I get lost, I will just go with it and look around and stuff. I figured I could see new sights I had not seen before, or places I had not seen in years, and get to experience more of the rural scenery that I had just never had the time to explore before. I left early in the morning, because I figured it would not be plain sailing, and I wanted to maximize the time I was going to spend with the people that I cared about. I'm not broke, but I still drive a shitty old Nissan Versa. Call it being frugal, call it old habits, but I have never cared enough to upgrade. Maybe when it packs in, I will treat myself to something fancy. Like I said, I had my GPS, but again, I was not accustomed to driving in the places I was, and also, I wasn't really paying too much attention. I didn't mind a few diversions for fun. Plus, I was going to be back in my hometown for 3 or 4 days, so a few hours gone was not going to be the end of the world. It gave me time to think and prepare and plan. Driving helps me clear my mind. Day was pretty nice too. Generally pretty sunny, albeit with a bit of wind. Felt nice though. It wasn't until around 1 to 2 p.m. that the sky started to darken and cloud up, which was a real bummer actually. It very quickly dawned on me that I was about to drive through a big shitty storm. About 14 minutes or so after it darkened, it was really coming down. One of the biggest downpours I've ever seen. I genuinely could not see shit. I had to slow down quite a lot and really start paying attention to the road and my GPS because the visibility was that bad. I wasn't panicking, but I wasn't exactly having fun. I probably drove for 30 more minutes through this before I decided fuck this. I need to pull over somewhere now before it gets worse. I was half hoping it would be a flash storm and die down soon, and then I could chill again. It wasn't like I was making much progress anyway, with how slow I had to go due to the conditions. Maybe 10 or 15 more minutes go by, and I see a small sign. Something about food and drink or whatever at the exit coming up to me. Thought I would stop off, get a bite to eat, and by then, I should be fine. I think it said next right, from what I could see anyway, so I did just that. The road was kinda shoddy the further down it you got, and I don't know, it just gave off a weird vibe. Turns out it wasn't just a highway food and drink pull-off, it was a full-on town. Not a massive one, granted, but I was kinda amazed to find something like this still. I know small towns off the beaten path still exist, but as someone who has only ever lived in big cities, it seemed so foreign to me. The sign at the edge of town was barely legible, definitely not very well maintained. I could only read part of the town name, something beginning with a T, I think, or maybe it could have been another letter, so don't hold me to that. I wasn't exactly just paying attention to the sign. The rain was still coming down heavy, so I had to slow my roll. The streets looked mostly empty, which wasn't unsurprising in this weather. There were a few people scattered about, but they were just standing there. They were all really stiff and just staring into the distance or something. Not using phones, not relaxing or waiting for someone. They were all kinda standing with the exact same posture and staring off into space. It was like someone hit copy-paste and then just changed outfits and stuff, if that makes sense. Weirded me out instantly, but hey, small town. Maybe they have some weird storm watching tradition, eh? I pulled up into the first place I found that I could park. There wasn't any kind of official parking lot, so I just pulled up on a street that seemed safe enough. I spotted a small cafe and decided it was as good a place as any to rest and relieve myself. It had a neon sign, emphasis on had, because that shit was not working anymore. The letters were all fucked up, and one looked like it was about to fall off. The place smelled kinda weird too, like a kind of metallic smell, something mechanical, but I couldn't really place what it was. Anyway, I figured I would get something to eat quickly and get some caffeine in me, and hopefully, by the time I was done, the road conditions might be a little better. At the very least, I could come up with a plan if it didn't. Didn't really want to hunker down in a motel, but if it came to it, then needs must. I walked in, and there was just one guy behind the counter. He looked kinda young, maybe in his late 20s or so, but he looked rough, like he hadn't slept in weeks, huge bags under his eyes. He smelled bad too, could smell it from across the room. Didn't smell like sweat though, more oily I guess, maybe from cooking. Another weird thing I noticed about him is how stiff his movements were. I don't know, call me crazy for looking deeply into something like this, but his movements did not look fluid at all, like he had to do it in parts and stop and register each little movement. It's hard to describe. I felt bad though, maybe he was just disabled. He did not say anything to me when I walked in. He looked at me for sure, never took his eyes off me. 15 minutes I waited for the guy to come over, all while he was just dead-eye staring at me, before I went up and was like, "Yo, are you doing business today?" I ordered a sandwich and a coffee, and the guy just kinda nodded at me and turned around and vanished into the back. A woman came in while I was waiting. Her clothes were really old-fashioned. Not just behind the times, but like, from another era. She sat down at a table next to mine. She stared at me too, but again, did not say anything at first. She kept like, half smiling and then stopping herself every so often. Even opened her mouth a few times, and then closed it again like she was practicing how to talk. She did this for a few minutes, and then finally struck up a conversation. First thing she said was just, "You're not from around here." Not even a question, just said it like a statement, very flat and monotone. I tried to be polite, and told her I was just passing through. I did not want her to know I was weirded out, I don't know why. She just nodded and said that people don't usually stop here. I replied politely again, and just said I was waiting out the storm. The guy finally came out and brought me my coffee, but did not give me my sandwich. Didn't ask me for payment either. I could not be bothered to flag him again. I wasn't that hungry. The woman watched me for a little longer. She never ordered anything herself. Just before she got up to leave, she just said to me, "Don't you want to see what's underneath?" But she left before I could even think of a reply. Fucking small-town weirdos. I left and just started walking. I had to try to shake this weird feeling of being watched. There were people just out on the sidewalk. The sky was still quite dark because of the nearby storm, so it was a little unusual. Especially the fact that they were staring at me as I walked by. I shit you not, they all just followed me with their eyes as I walked past. It was so unnerving. They did not even flash smiles at me or anything welcoming, just glassy-eyed, blank-faced stares. No kind of emotion registered on their faces at all. I felt my skin crawl and decided to hurry back to my car for a while. Figured I would drive to a different place in the town. I drove slowly through the town and saw possibly the most bizarre thing I ever have in my life. There were two men, not children, but grown men, fighting at a nearby small park. Kinda, anyway. One of them had a knife, there was no mistaking it. But the way that they were fighting did not seem like a fight at all. Obviously, I did not stay and watch for long, so perhaps my brain tricked me and I missed some details. But there were no rushes of adrenaline or lunging. If you see a guy with a knife and you don't have one, you run for your fucking life, or at least try to take it from him. Not this guy. He is throwing punches, but they were so stiff, they were never going to land. The guy with the knife kept being given easy openings to kill this guy if he really wanted to, but it was like he watched the punch and just waited for his turn. Real life turn-based combat, Lamau. I could not believe what I was witnessing. At the time, obviously, I was freaked out, but there were other people starting to gather to watch too, and I figured that me calling the police would not go down well, with me being the outlier in this town. They weren't really cheering them on, but I wouldn't say they were telling them to stop though either. More like indifference. Eventually, this guy with a knife managed to strike the other man. He caught him across the back of the forearm and drew blood, but it did not look fatal. That was what freaked me out. He did not start gushing red. This will sound totally fake, but believe me when I say, he started gushing fucking black. Like, just pure black liquid, but it was almost viscous. That is the best way I can describe it. Again, maybe I just got confused and his arm was muddy or something, and I was just tired and imagined it, I don't know. But he was dripping black stuff from the wound on his arm. I sped off once I saw that. I just needed an isolated place to wait this out. I spotted a small community center and decided to stop there. I figured it was as good a place as any. I know. Why didn't you just stay in your car? Because my heater was busted and I was cold as shit. At least I could maybe get warm here without some weirdo staring at me. The front door was wide open, so I went in. Inside there was a group of people sitting in a circle. I immediately felt bad, thinking I just stumbled on some AA meeting or something, and started to apologize. None of them were talking though when I came in. None of them even turned to look at me when I walked in, aside from the one guy who looked to be in charge. Every other person just continued to stare forward with a blank stare. The main guy looked at me and just said, "You're still here," and I could not tell from his tone whether it was a question or a statement. He spoke in complete, unbreaking monotone. I just replied something like "Yeah, still waiting for the storm to go." He continued to stare at me for a few more seconds, then he returned to just staring ahead with the others. It was really starting to freak me out, so I started to slowly back away, hoping that was the end of the interaction. As I was walking, something on the ground creaked under my foot. I shit you not, at that exact moment, every single head in that circle snapped and looked at me. It triggered something primal in me, and I just ran straight to my car. I had completely and utterly had enough, and just started driving back the way I came. Even though the storm did not seem to be letting up, I just drove. I didn't care anymore. It took me a while, and I got a little lost around some weird looping side roads in this small town, but I eventually made it back to the highway. What was especially strange is that once I made it back to the highway, the storm started to clear up a bit. Not totally, but enough that I wasn't freaking out anymore. So, yeah. Anyone else have any weird experiences with these weird small as fuck places? Anyone know what was going on in this place? Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you, and back to the stories. It was 2010, and I was a cop in a small town, tucked along a lonely stretch of highway. The kind of place where big things rarely happen. Petty thieves, occasional bar fights, that was about it. Budget cuts hit our department hard, so we often worked solo shifts, especially at night. One evening, I covered a colleague's shift. It wasn't my usual beat, but I didn't mind the solitude. Around midnight, I realized I'd made a serious mistake. I had left my service weapon back at the station. I had taken it off earlier to clean, then got distracted with coffee and a snack. It was a huge breach of protocol, but given how quiet our town was, I did not worry too much. Just planned to get back before anyone noticed. That night passed by quietly until about 2 a.m. when I got a call about a broken down car on an old country road just outside town. Dispatch said a man sounded frustrated and requested assistance. I radioed back I'd be there. The road was narrow, winding, flaked by dense woods where cell signals often dropped. As I neared the location, my headlights caught a sedan parked on the shoulder with its hood up. I pulled in behind it and radioed my location before stepping out. It was cold. I reminded myself that I was unarmed and needed to be cautious. Are you the one who called? I asked. A tall, lanky man emerged from behind the hood, wearing a worn jacket and jeans. His face was partially shadowed by the brim of a baseball cap. Yeah, that's me, he said, voice flat and smooth. Car just died on me. Let's see if you can help. I walked over, trying to act friendly, and peered into the engine bay, though I wasn't much of a mechanic. Any idea what happened? I asked. He shrugged, eyes locked on me rather than the engine. Just stop running. Maybe you could give me a ride. His gaze was intense and unblinking. I noticed his scarred knuckles and dirt under his nails. Not exactly comforting. Sure, I can arrange that, but I need to see your driver's license and registration first, I said, sticking to protocol. He hesitated, then admitted he'd left his wallet at home. Okay, what's your name? I asked. Daniel, he said. Just Daniel, I pressed. He didn't answer, and the air got awkward. I was alone, unarmed, with a stranger bigger than me, who was growing more suspicious by the second. How about we step back to my cruiser and see what we can do, I suggested. He did not move. You work alone out here, he asked, a hint of a smile on his lips. Sometimes, I said, but backups are never far. His eyes narrowed. That's so. You sure you don't want to check under the car? Might be something stuck. I took a step back. I'll call a tow truck. They handle that. His smile faded. Dangerous out here at night. You gotta watch your back, Daniel. I held his gaze. After a long silence, he said, Since I'm stranded, how about that ride you mentioned? I weighed my options. Letting him into the cruiser felt risky, but refusing might escalate things. You can sit in the back. Doors can't be opened from inside, I said. He stared before nodding slowly. As he slid into the back seat, I noticed a jagged tattoo on the back of his neck, something vaguely familiar. I locked the doors and grabbed the radio handset. Dispatch, I've got a stranded motorist at mile marker 42 on Old Mill Road, requesting a tow and backup. Silence. I tried again. No response. Then Daniel's voice came from the back, smooth as ever. Dead zone. I tried my cell phone. No signal. Great. Technology is unreliable, he said, amused. I started the engine and pulled back onto the road, tension thick in the air. I needed to keep him talking, maybe get some information. So, Daniel, where were you headed tonight? I asked. Nowhere in particular, he said. Nice, traveling freely like that. You from around here? I continue, being on the road that long. He said he was searching for interesting people and good conversations. Then he smiled thinly and said, Well, I found you. I caught his reflection in the rearview mirror, his eyes scanning the cruiser. Do you always forget your sidearm when you're on duty? His words froze me. How did he know? My empty holster must have been visible. Sometimes I'm forgetful, I said calmly, but backups are never far. He leaned back, seeming to accept that. We drove in silence, radio dead, no cell signal. After a few minutes, he asked, Mind if I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you believe in fate? I shrugged. Not really. He said, Maybe you should. I shifted the topic. Is there someone I can call for you when we get signal? Family, friends? He shook his head. No one is waiting for me. Everyone's got someone, not me. Then he turned it back to me, asking if I had people waiting. Family, kids. I said nothing but gripped the wheel tighter. We reached a gas station, the only one for miles, but the lights were off, closed. Maybe they've got a payphone, I said. I parked near the entrance and said, Wait here, I will check. As I reached for the door handle, Daniel's voice stopped me. I think you should stay. I paused. Why? He leaned forward, voice low. Because if you step out, you won't be coming back. My heart thundered. Are you threatening me? He smiled thinly. No, just an observation. I forced myself to calm down. If there's something you want to tell me, now is the time. He studied me, then said, You seem like a good man, honest, hard-working, family man. I swallowed hard and nodded. It's been a long time since I talked to someone like you. Let's keep talking. Tell me about yourself. I said little. Made some mistakes, took some wrong turns, I admitted. Everyone deserves a second chance. He stared out the window. Do they? I nodded. He went quiet. After a while, he said, "I think this is where we part ways." Before I could react, he opened his door and stepped out. My breath caught. Those doors were not supposed to open from the inside, but his did. He started walking into the woods, beyond the gas station. "Wait, Daniel," I called after him, debating whether to follow, unarmed and alone. He turned briefly. "Take care, officer. Cherish what you have." And that was the last I saw of him. The night felt colder. I wanted to chase him, but fear held me back. Fear unlike anything I'd ever felt before. Back in the cruiser, I tried the radio again. Finally, a voice came through. "Copy that. We've been trying to reach you. Everything okay?" I explained the situation, that the stranded motorist was gone. "Be advised," they said. "State police issued an alert about a suspected criminal in your area. A drifter involved in multiple homicides, matching that description. Exercise caution." My heart sank. I muttered a "Roger that" and put the handset down. I drove back toward town, safe at last, and reported everything. Backup searched the area where I had been, but Daniel was never found. To this day, I believe that showing empathy and engaging him calmly saved my life. If I'd acted differently, who knows where I would be. This changed me. I no longer take things for granted. OP, you are not alone. I've seen something as well working at a state park in Indiana. I've posted it on here before, so some people might remember it. Be me 2 years ago, working third shift at a state park. Night security and a bunch of people say a lot of people bail. Don't get specifics, just say that people see weird shit and bail. Entire season goes without a hitch. Sitting outside my post, cooking in the fire pit. Girlfriend at the time spending the night out there with me. They allowed it. Night is going like normal. Cuddling, when a blood-curdling howl scream rips through the silence. Started out high-pitched, like someone screaming for help, and shifted quickly into a deep, bellowing roar. We both instantly shoot out of our fold-up chairs before the sound even shifts into the roar, because it was so unnatural. I try to remain calm, but I am very startled. Girlfriend is utterly terrified and ready to run into my guardhouse at the first sign of trouble. I scan the tree line. End field to my left, next to the office, looking for the source of the sound. Girlfriend points at something. Female deer is up on its hind legs, freaking out, and looking behind the main office across from me. Scan view again, and see a large black humanoid figure bolt from behind the offices where the sound originated. It runs through the streetlight behind the offices, giving me a short, clear glimpse. It looked like it was covered in dense hair, either black or dark brown, broad shoulders, and a huge gait that did not seem forced, almost like it was not even trying to move so quickly. Passes behind a large tray, and the branches cover it from a bit below the shoulders up. It seems to be bolting at the deer. Deer finally stops kicking the air and bolts into the darkness. Large figure follows it. Girlfriend saw the thing chasing the deer and had bailed into the gatehouse, hiding in the doorway, silent with fear. Security checks out the area to ease her mind, but finds nothing. They finally explain what happened previously. Third shift out here has had a history of people seeing large black hair covered humanoids, usually much taller than any human or deer, going back generations. One guy, who is now a police officer, was working with the head of security, and they saw 3 of them cross in front of their car in a remote section of park property. Another saw one walking down the stretch of road in front of the gatehouse at 3 a.m., thinking it was a person, until they realized it was taller than corn in fall and freaked. They have had several reports in recent years of people complaining about rocks being thrown at them or their tents. Stories just keep coming. They have told me a lot of things, that apparently the park keeps hush-hush besides this so that people don't avoid the park, and apparently it is normal for state parks to do this. In the morning, I go to check the tree it ran behind, and the lowest branches were a solid foot over my head, and I'm a bit over 6 foot, and it extended past those branches' height. Girlfriend never came out again, and I don't spend massive amounts of time outside the gatehouse now, lol. I fear one of these seasons I will turn to a window and see some big thin thing glaring at me, hunched over. I will probably hide in the bathroom all night and call the cops. Prior to this, I had one single incident. I did not know what to think about it at the time. I had a couple of friends come out and chill with me. They left to get cigarettes, and almost as soon as they turned out of sight, a knocking begins as I sat next to the fire. It was coming from the woods opposite of my office. It was very rhythmic and did not sound like the normal sounds deer or other animals make. Never heard of it again. I tried to ignore it at first, but it never stopped. After a few minutes of it, I hid in the gatehouse and opened the window on that side, and the sound continued like I had never moved. It continues the entire length they were gone until the headlights of their car illuminated my post. It stopped instantly and never kicked up again. Looking back now, it just adds to this situation. There were many nights it felt like something was just out of sight in the woods the knocking came from, watching me, but I just wrote it off as my mind playing games with me. Used to live in Alabama. Here is the only true thing I've ever written. Be driving on I-85 late at night. Get near the exit to the Kia plant. There are two small dogs right by the exit. One is laying down like he is injured. The other one is standing nearby, making eye contact and looking worried. It's like he wants someone to stop and help his friend. Missed the Kia plant exit, but feel bad for the little guys. Get off on the next exit and turn around. Get off at the Kia exit. Drive across the overpass. Dogs are gone. Figure they must have wandered down away from the highway. Drive slowly around the nearby area. Across from the factory at this point. It is pitch black, no street lamps. Suddenly, my headlights shine on a pug standing defiantly in the middle of the street. He locks eyes with me. I look around. The two fuckers from the exit are coming out of some bushes. I look the other way. More tiny dogs coming out of the trees. I am literally surrounded by a pack of toy breeds. They look like they mean business. Not today, fuckers. Nope the fuck out of there and just continue on home. These little sons of bitches actually chased me down as I drove off. It was one of the most surreal and unfathomable moments of my life. A pack of toy breed dogs led by a fucking boogly-eyed pug setting an ambush for a fucking car. I am late to the party, but I have something to share. By the way, I am telling this story as it was told to me by my grandma. I was very young. I do not remember any of this at all. Here we go. Be me, 5 years old. Just learned to ride my bike without training wheels. Feel like a Chad. Mom is doing something in the backyard. Probably watering tulips or something. Mom was very protective. Anywhere I would go, she would follow me. Understandable, given that I am a stupid kid. Decide to use this chance to ride off somewhere that I've never been before. I went missing for 5 hours. My mom enters in complete and utter panic mode. Starts calling up everyone that she knows to help her try and find me. My dad's hunting buddy and his dog find me sleeping in a field near a forest entrance, which is around 5 kilometers away from my house, 3.1 miles. He picks me up and takes me to his home. He calls up my mom and dad, saying that he finally found me. When they came to get me, they asked me how I managed to get there and where my bike was. Apparently, I told them that a random blonde lady took me by the hand and asked me to dance with her, and that I left the bike not too far away from my house, which they later found, parked on my neighbor's fence. Unsurprisingly, everyone refuses to believe me. Fast forward to about a week later. My dad is going about his business and goes to harvest wheat near the place where I fell asleep. He spots something out of the ordinary. Mushrooms have started growing in a circular pattern on the very place where I was found sleeping. In my culture, mushrooms growing in a circular pattern, like pick-related, are a sign that fairies have been dancing there. He told the family all about the sighting the minute he got back. My grandma, at that point, tells them all about the fairy myth, where fairies kidnap young children and mushroom circles appear after, and so on. They still have a really hard time believing in what she was telling them, but they do admit that my experience has way too many similarities with the myth for it to just be a random stupid coincidence. So, yeah, X. Apparently, I was kidnapped by fairies when I was 5 years old, and I am lucky to still be here.